We're back on the trial portion of this trial. Go ahead, Kelly, and bring in the jury and our court staff. Let me just take our roll call here to make sure everybody is where they need to be. Court staff, go ahead and kill your video. And then juror number 15, we're waiting on you to start your video. I've got 18, 11, 13, 14, 15, 3, and 5. Okay, we're all here. Welcome back. This is the trial portion. This is probably the most familiar to you all if you've ever watched Law & Order or Matlock or anything like that. Even though things are a little bit different, things will be very similar to our in-person proceedings in terms of hearing from the attorneys and listening to the evidence. You all should have seen or heard of the instructions that Deputy Harris had given you. I'm going to go over those again at the end. Let me know if you have any questions. After that, I'm going to start the trial part, and then we'll just proceed on. My understanding is that we're using Box to see some of the evidence. Now, when the state or the defense, if they want to present something, they'll show that and share the screen. The Box function is really just so that after you start deliberating, you'll be able to look at that evidence and download it and view it individually so you can look at it more closely. So understand that you'll be able to see that in a more close-up view later on. But if you do engage the Box app, if you leave the screen, what will happen is your video will go dark, and we cannot let that happen. First thing is I got to get you all to swear another oath. So raise your right hands. Oh, sorry. Again, unmute yourselves. Jury, if I can have you raise your right hands. And juror number 5. Oh, he's frozen. Give us 1 second as we kind of get him. Okay. There you are. Juror number 5, raise your right hand as well. Sorry, we're away in just a second. Okay, there you are. Do you and each of you do solemnly swear that in the case of the state of Texas versus the defendant, you will render a true verdict according to law and the evidence?
Yes.
Yes.
I do.
Okay. Very good. Let me do this. Give me 1 second here. I want to make sure that juror number 5 is able to connect okay. He's Okay. Let me see if I can unmute him. Give me 1 second, y'all. And then 15, I'm gonna mute you again. Juror number 5, can you hit unmute for a second? We're having connectivity issues with you. Let me do this. Kelly, go ahead and put juror number 5 back into the waiting room and then have him re-enter. See if that could reset his connection. Did we lose him totally?
We lost juror number 5.
Okay. Emily, go ahead and, or Casman, go ahead and talk to juror number 5 for a second. We'll wait.
Yes, sir.
Attorneys and defendant, why don't we go ahead and just have you guys close out your video screen for right now while we wait. I want to thank you all for your patience as we go through this. The problem with first times on things is that it never goes according to plan. And then Kelly, go ahead and admit that juror and then rename him juror number 5. Okay. Juror number 5, can you see and hear me all right? Okay. Juror number 5. All right. Let's do this. Kelly, go ahead and Jurors, I'm going to have you go back into a breakout room for just a second while we troubleshoot this. And attorneys, stay back. I'm going to talk to you all outside the presence of the jury. Jurors number 15 and 5, you may need to manually join the breakout room. Jurors 15 and 5, go ahead and hit join breakout room. Okay. And Kelly, if you're able to close the comment section on the feed.
The chat has been turned off. I'm working on why it's not.
Gotcha. We're just talking about the YouTube feed and not the actual Zoom feed.
Yes, that's the one I'm working on.
Cool. It looks like jurors number 5 is having issues connecting. He's using one of our iPads with the cellular technology, and the problem is that I think he lives pretty far out in a rural area, so cellular is spotty. Do you want us to continue on, or do you want us to just excuse him and just get the alternate going? Anybody care? I'm inclined to just let him go because we got to get a move on this, and I don't think the problem will get solved.
I mean, if we can't get him technically working, then yeah.
Okay.
I'm just hesitating because the screen is looking like it might be reconnecting.
Hold on. Yeah. Let me just send him into the web.
But that's why we have the alternate.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that then. Have the Kelly go ahead and send the jury back in, and Emily, contact juror number 5. Let him know he's excused. Okay, I got 14, 11, 3, 13, 18, and then juror number 15, I just need you to start your video. Juror 15, if you could start your video. There you are. All right, we're back. We had some technical issues with juror number 15, and we had to excuse him. Luckily, we have an alternate for this case for this specific reason, so that alternate now becomes a real juror. So do everything you can for our 6 jurors to make sure that we don't have any more issues, but I don't anticipate us having those issues. Let's do this. Let me go through our instructions and then start this trial. These instructions are very similar to the ones that you had when you were on the panel. Number 1 is turn off your electronic devices other than the electronic device that you're using for your Zoom app. If you have your cell phone close by, go ahead and just put that behind you farther away than your reach. Hopefully nobody has their cell phone behind them, but if so, just go ahead and put that farther behind. All right. Don't talk on the phone. Don't look at text messages. Don't post on social media. Don't get distracted for this trial. That also means just make sure nobody else is in your room. Make sure that you're in a private area that you can listen to this trial. Don't have any music or TV going on at the same time. Also, make sure that you don't move away from the camera. You guys have been doing great with that. If you need a break or if you need to move to another room to grab a glass of water or something like that, raise your hand. I'll stop the proceedings, make sure we're good to go, and then everybody will take a break at the same time. It's really important that everybody takes the break at the same time so that nobody gets a different view of this trial. Don't forget that this is just like if you're sitting in the jury box, so don't get distracted with somebody walking in or something like that. If you have family members, you know, and they're trying to come in, just tell them, hey, Judge Shu says we got jury duty, and that it's really important that you follow these rules. Second is avoid looking friendly to one side or the other. A little bit easier seeing how we're in this virtual setting that you guys can just do your job. Don't have to run into each other at the elevator. 3 is don't accept any favors from lawyers, witnesses, or parties. And then 4 is don't discuss the case with anyone, including your spouse or your friend or your roommate or anybody, even through text message on breaks or anything like that. The only thing you could say is, I'm on jury duty, can't talk to you. That's the only thing you can do at this moment. 5 is don't talk to the case with other jurors. When you go into the breakout room for breaks, just stick to yourself. If you need to talk to anybody, just great, talk to them about anything not related to the case, because what we don't want you to do is start having an opinion about the case until you have all the evidence in front of you. So just make sure that you don't talk about the case until I say, okay, now it's time for you guys to talk about the case. Number 6, very simple. Don't investigate this case on your own. Don't look up blog, don't go on the internet, don't ask your lawyer friend or your police officer friend or anything like that. Just everything that you need for this trial, I will give you or these attorneys will give you, but don't do anything else other than just look at this screen. All these rules are important, but that one especially because of how we're doing this, it's very easy for us, human nature, to look up something we don't know. But just remember, do not investigate this by yourself. Don't rely on your own experience with special knowledge. Again, this is from the past instructions. We want to make sure that everything from your experience or everything was from the witness stand or from the evidence that's submitted, not from some kind of specialized knowledge that you've had. Don't worry about attorney's fees or anything related to that. Don't worry about insurance or anything related to that. New ones are this. During the trial, if you're taking notes, which will help you focus, you may use a piece of paper and pen or pencil. but don't take notes on any kind of electronic device or your cell phone or anything like that. Also, remember that that these notes are not considered evidence. Just because one person wrote something down doesn't mean that that is the end all or be all authority because someone had it written down and somebody didn't. These are just memory aids. So these are your own personal notes so you can remember important things, but these aren't something that is a record or something that is definitive of what was said. That goes on to number 11, is that you should consider all the evidence that we submit to you, and you should only focus on what the questions are when I ask you to deliberate. And at the end of the trial, I ask you for specific answers to specific questions. So follow those rules at the end of the trial. 12 is something that may not be common sense, but it's here. You guys are jurors. In other words, you are listening to this case, but you're not permitted to ask any questions of the witness or of the attorneys. The only thing in these situations is if you're having audio issues or connection issues, raise your hand, let me know, and I'll address those. But don't expect to answer or get asked questions or to anybody. The last one is, even though you see that that we're recording this, it is not an official court record. The reason why is because justice of the peace courts are not courts of record. There are no official court reporters here. Because of that, don't expect for us to play back a recording of what was said, or sometimes it's very common for jurors to say, we forgot what this one witness said. Can you go back and read the transcript of this? Don't expect any of that because it's not going to happen, because under our rules, we're not a court of record. So what's said is said, and that's why you have your notepads. Those are the instructions. I will give you more specific instructions about the law when we go towards the jury charge and closing argument. But does anybody have any questions or issues regarding these instructions? All right. We will proceed on as quickly as we can, but still holding to rights of due process and our constitutional requirements. The first part of this is that the state has announced ready and the defense has announced ready. Previously, I've had you go on to gallery mode. If you can go now and click into speaker view. Our next phase of the trial will be Ms. Washburn. She will read the complaint, which is not evidence, but is the charging instrument and what basically this trial is all about. Kelly, go ahead and spotlight Ms. Washburn, and Ms. Washburn, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Your Honor. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, before me, the undersigned authority, on this day personally appeared your affiant, who after being by me first duly sworn, deposes and says upon his oath that he has good reason to believe and does believe, based upon his personal investigation of such offense, that on or about March 6, 2018, and before the making and filing of this complaint in the county of Travis, state of Texas, Callie Lynette Kornblau did then and there operate a motor vehicle on a public street, to wit, 16,700 block of Weiss, at a speed which was greater than was reasonable and prudent under the circumstances then existing, to wit, at a speed of 51 miles per hour, at which time and place said location was a construction or maintenance work zone, and at a time when workers were present, and the lawful maximum prima facie reasonable and prudent speed indicated by an official sign posted was 35 miles per hour. Against the peace and dignity of the state, signed the affiant.
Okay. Now that the charging instrument has been read, Kelly, go ahead and disable or keep the spotlight on Ms. Washburn, because the next phase of this trial, ladies and gentlemen, will be opening statements. This is not evidence. This is just a preview from the attorneys of what to expect in this trial. It's just kind of a roadmap of what to expect. The state goes first because the state has the burden of proof, and the defense gets to go second if they wish. Ms. Washburn?
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to start off by thanking you for your patience throughout the process today. And I want to thank you for what I know will be patience and paying attention and understanding throughout the rest of the trial today where you're receiving evidence. This case is, like we talked about in jury selection, it's about community safety. It's a question of whether or not officers are keeping people safe on the street. You're going to hear evidence today from Travis County Deputy Stephen Shockey. He's going to tell you he has 14 years of experience at the Travis County Sheriff's Office and that he works traffic enforcement. He works on a motorcycle. He's a motorcycle officer. And he's going to tell you a little bit about his training and experience and what got him here and what brought him to the March 18th date where he was looking for speeders. He's going to explain to you that he set up in a location where construction was going on. He checked the location. He made sure that there were workers present within the construction zone. He made sure that there was a posted speed limit sign of 35 miles per hour. And then he decided to set up and start using his laser to test people's speed. Deputy Shockey is going to explain to you that he first visually identifies whether or not someone is speeding. And then he uses the laser to actually pinpoint a place on their car that is reflective and be able to tell him what speed that car is going. He's going to tell you more than you ever wanted to know about the laser and how it works, how it's maintained, how he runs a test on it every single morning, how it's calibrated, how he knows that that speed was accurate. And he's going to then talk to you about how he wrote the citation, and you're going to get to see Deputy Shockey's body cam. Now, since he's on a motorcycle, he doesn't have a dash cam view, but you will see a body cam in his interaction with the defendant, Ms. Kornblau. You're going to see a very pleasant interaction. You're going to see some admissions by the defendant that she didn't realize that it was a 35 mile per hour zone and that she did recognize that the construction zone was there. And at the end of the day, Deputy Shockey is going to issue the ticket and everyone's going to go on about their way. This is a case about community safety. It's not crazy. It's important that we enforce these laws to protect those people working in those construction zones. And I'm going to ask you to find her guilty. Thank you.
Kelly, if you could disable spotlight on Ms. Washburn. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you'll hear from the defense in their opening statement. Mr. Guthrie, and if Kelly, if you could spotlight him.
Like we said in jury selection, it's a simple case, but it's an important one. No signs, no workers, not guilty. You're going to hear three pieces of evidence that are going to be probably the most important that you'll hear today. You're going to see Deputy Shockey's body cam. You're going to see up the road where there are no workers and no signs marking a construction zone. You're going to see down the road on that same camera where there are no workers and no signs marking a construction zone. And you're going to hear from Callie Kornblau. And she's going to tell you that when she was driving down that road, she was driving a speed that was reasonable based on everything going on around her. And there were no workers and no signs marking a construction zone. It's a Tuesday morning in March. It's right about 9:30. And Callie's driving back and going for a run. She's got the day off from the hospital and it's a nice day. It's a clear day. It's a pretty day. She gets to a section of the road where there are some traffic barrels off to the side, off the road. And they're situated where it looks like the shoulder has started to be paved over, so the road can extend out later. The only people in sight are a couple of sheriff's deputies standing on the sides of the road. When Miss Kornblau gets pulled over and told that she was speeding, going 51 in a 35 mile an hour zone, she's surprised because she's driven this road enough. She's driven up and down this road for the last several months, and she knows that it's not a 35 mile an hour zone. When she's told after that she's being ticketed for speeding in a construction zone with workers present, she's even more surprised because there are no workers and there are no signs that are marking any of this as a construction zone. The judge is going to give you the law at the end of the trial that'll tell you all the rules and everything that governs all of this. But there's a couple of key parts that we need to remember to frame the evidence and to understand the accusation that the state has brought. The first one is the presumption of innocence. We talked about it a little bit in jury selection. Callie Kornblau, like everyone else, is presumed innocent unless proven guilty. And to do that, the state is going to have to prove to you each and every part of both of those questions that the judge mentioned beyond a reasonable doubt. And as you're looking at all the evidence, it's important to remember the law, again, that the judge will give you at the end of the trial, but the law that covers everything we're going to be talking about. Speeding in the state of Texas is driving at a speed greater than that which is reasonable and prudent considering the circumstances then existing. And for this enhancement, for this additional factor of a construction zone with workers present, there have to be workers and there have to be the signs marking that construction zone. You're going to hear today that there are no workers, there are no signs, and at the end of the trial, I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask you to give the only verdict that's supported by the law and the facts and by justice, and that's going to be not guilty.
Kelly, go ahead and disable Spotlight. There we go. And then the next phase of our trial is what's called the state's case in chief. We will now hear the state's evidence. The state will call their witness, and then the state will have the opportunity to ask questions of that witness, and then the defense will have the opportunity to ask questions after the state. And that will kind of go back and forth for a reasonable amount of time. It's important to remember that if there's an objection, we're going to have everybody pause. And then once we do that pause, what's going to happen is I'll make my ruling. And then if I say that an objection is sustained, that means that that objection was correct and you're to disregard that question or that answer. And that objection is overruled. That means I disagree with that objection and that we can continue to consider that question or that answer. Next phase is checking in. Are we ready for our witnesses to be called into this?
I believe so, Judge. I see both of our second chairs are back. So
Okay.
this is called Deputy Shockey.
All right. Go ahead, Kelly, and bring in Mr. Shockey.
He will be in about 10 seconds.
Very good. All right. Deputy Shockey, go ahead and unmute yourself. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. I'm Judge Nicholas Chu, and you're here in front of this trial, just like any other jury trial, in front of our jury, prosecutors, defense, and defendant. It's important to remember that there are certain rules about this that I need you to follow before I swear you in. The first is that, one, you're under the rule, but I think that was clearly communicated to you already, which means don't talk to anybody else about this or look at anything else. Second is make sure that you're in a private area to give your testimony. Specifically, it would be inappropriate for you to have somebody next to you or communicate through another electronic device, anything, even simply how you're doing or things like that. Basically, you're in this bubble right now until you're released from being called as a witness. Do you understand that part, officer?
Yes, sir.
The next thing is that through our instructions, we have said that you may have some pieces of paper that may aid in your understanding or your memory. But my understanding is that those are in a folder. Is that still correct?
They
Or
are.
is that,
They're on a table. They're pieces of paper that are on the table, sir.
are they viewable by you right now?
Yes.
Okay, turn them over so that you can't see them. Now, when somebody asks you a question and you don't remember or need to refer to your notes, ask permission from the attorney or from the court to look at that document. The attorney or the court will give you permission. You'll look at that and put him back in the same place, face down, so you can't look at that. Do you understand that instruction?
I do, sir.
Okay. Other than that, just make sure that the camera's on like this the whole time. If you're having audio or connection issues, just let us know, and then we will try to troubleshoot them for you, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, if I can have you raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir.
Okay. Now, for our attorneys, what we're going to do is I'm going to unmute myself. I'm going to unmute myself, and Ms. Washburn and Mr. Shockey are on. They will continue with the questions. State, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Deputy. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Deputy Stephen Shockey. I work for the Travis County Sheriff's Office Motor Unit.
And tell us a little bit about what it means to work for the motor unit at the Travis County Sheriff's Office.
For the motor unit, we're tasked with doing traffic control and working collisions.
Okay, and when you say you're on a motor unit, does that mean you're in a car or a motorcycle?
I am on a motorcycle.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your experience and your training that has supported this current role you're in. How long have you been at the Travis County Sheriff's Office?
I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 14 years.
Okay, and have you always been in the motor unit at the Sheriff's Office?
No, ma'am, just for the past 3 years.
Okay, and when you joined the Sheriff's Office, did you go through any sort of specialized training to do your job?
I went through 10 months of a basic peace officer course.
Okay, can you explain to the jury a little bit about what the peace officer course is?
It's variations of every aspect that law enforcement has to deal with. All the certifications, the training, all the stuff like that.
Okay, and as part of that, are you trained on what the laws are in the state of Texas?
Yes, ma'am, we are.
And do you focus on the transportation code as well?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about your training and when it comes to enforcing laws that are in the transportation code. One of those being speeding. What kind of training do you have to detect drivers who may be speeding?
I've been trained in using radar. I've been trained in using the laser, and I've been trained to visually observe vehicles that are speeding and then verify with those two devices.
Okay, and as part of that training, what kind of things do you do to certify use in those?
When we took the radar and the laser class, they took us out to the toll road, and we had to watch 100 cars come down the toll road and be within plus or minus 5 miles per hour of the speed of those cars without using any devices. And then we verified with the devices.
Okay, and when you say without using any devices, how were you able to determine their speed?
There's multiple ways that we use to determine it. Traffic flow, you know, if they're flying past a car that's going slower, but generally most of the cars are set at one speed, they're probably doing the speed limit. Passing obstacles, how fast they pass obstacles compared to other obstacles that are being passed by slower drivers.
Okay, so is this visually determining a speed?
It's visually, I wouldn't say determining speed, but it's visually checking to see if you believe that vehicle to be speeding.
Okay, and then you said you used a device to verify the speed. What kind of devices would you use?
We would use a laser or we would use radar.
Okay, and at the end of your training academy, were you certified as a peace officer in the state of Texas?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Okay, and do you have any prior work experience before joining the Travis County Sheriff's Office?
I served in the U.S. Army, ma'am.
Okay, let's talk, Deputy Shockey, a little bit about your specific training when it comes to using the laser to detect a speed. Is there specific training you've had on that instrument?
Well, first it's to visually see if you believe a vehicle is above the speed limit. And then it's using the laser on a reflective part of the vehicle. For example, the license plate, the headlights, and sometimes possibly the front grille of a vehicle.
Okay, and why do you use the specific point of the vehicle?
Because the way the laser operates is it sends a pulse out and you have to get that pulse back. And the best way to explain it to you is imagine throwing 40 tennis balls at a vehicle. We have to get 35 of those back to judge the speed for that system to work. If I don't have a good connection or it's not a good reflective surface, it will give me an error and it will not give me the speed.
Okay. And when you use these devices, do you know, are they maintained? How are they, how do you know they're working properly?
So for the laser in this case, as soon as you turn it on, it goes through multiple checks to verify that it's working properly. And then we conduct 3 tests to confirm that it is working properly.
Can you tell us a little bit about those tests?
I would like to refer to the sheet so I can use the proper verbiage, if that's
And
okay.
is this your, you're using this to refresh your memory of how the device is working?
I'm using it to give you the proper verbiage of what we do to test that machine.
And Your Honor, can the witness refer to his materials?
May
Okay, you can go ahead and look at that.
Object, Your Honor.
the objection's overruled.
Okay, so we conduct 4 tests for the system. The first one is the display integrity test, which is all of the lights on the display. So all the numbers, kind of like a calculator, everything is there. So there's no misinterpretation of a number and it shows the system's working properly. The second one we do is the scope alignment test, which is we use the laser on an object so we know that that laser is aimed at that object, that it's not aimed anywhere else, and it is striking the object at what we aimed it for. Then we use the delta distance test, which is we use 2 objects. We shoot one object, we shoot the second object, and then the system tells us the difference distances between those 2 objects. And then the final test is the fixed distance test, which is where we shoot an object that we know how far away it is, and we confirm it with the radar or the laser that that is the distance that we believed it to be.
Okay, and are these tests you perform every time you intend to use the laser to determine speed?
Yes, ma'am, at the beginning of shift.
Okay, I want to talk to you specifically about March 6, 2018. Were you working traffic that day?
I was, ma'am.
Can you tell the jury kind of where you were located and what you were working?
I was located on Weiss Lane in a construction zone, conducting selective traffic for that construction zone.
Okay, and why did you choose this particular location?
So when we choose select traffic zones, we choose multiple ones for various different reasons. We do school zones as motor units, that way to keep children, family, teachers from being struck by vehicles. In this particular case, we use the construction zone because the construction zone is very dangerous and we don't want any of the workers getting struck by any vehicles.
Okay. Do you think it will assist the jury to see the location on a Google map of where you were on Weiss Lane?
We can, yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, permission to use a Google map as a demonstrative.
Any objection?
Not as long as I can see it first, Judge.
Give us a pause. Mr. Guthrie, is this the same item that was given in discovery?
No, I have no map, Judge.
Can you,
Judge, it wasn't uploaded. It's just the same map that we've pulled up on Google Maps using 16700 Weiss Lane.
Ms. Washburn, go ahead and put that map in the offered folder.
And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that, Judge, because it's not saved as a PDF. It's a live link.
It will have to somehow be to have the defense take a look at it. I don't know if you want to take a screenshot and take that over to him or email it over to him, but he's got to see it before we do that.
Sure. Give me 1 second, Judge. Actually, Judge, we'll just move on with it at this point. I don't think it's that important.
Okay.
So, officer, you chose the area of 16700 Weiss Lane. That's where you were set up. Is that correct?
That is correct, ma'am.
Tell us a little bit about this area. How's the road? What's the location like?
It's a 2-lane flat road. You can see for miles. They were widening the road, so they were adding more lanes to the road. So at both ends, it says begin construction zone. At both ends, it says end construction zone. And then there's a 35-mile-an-hour construction speed limit signs located variously down the road.
And let me ask you, when you set up to do selective traffic enforcement, do you drive the entire construction zone before you start looking for vehicles?
Yes, ma'am.
And why do you do that?
We want to verify the signs are in place. We want to verify workers are in place, and we want to verify the speed limit.
Okay. And how long, do you recall how long this construction zone was?
Oh, it'd be an estimate of 3 miles.
Okay. And did you drive that entire 3 miles?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you said you wanted to verify there were signs in place for the construction zone. Were you able to verify that that happened?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And this location, is it a public street?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And is it located in Travis County?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And is it located within precinct 2?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. I want to talk to you. So you've driven the entire construction zone. You verified that there's signs posted and there's workers present. So then where did you set up and what did you begin doing?
We set up in the, I believe it was the 16,700 block. I'd have to refer to the ticket for that. And we were aiming towards coming from the lake, from Lake Pflugerville.
Okay. And Lake Pflugerville, is that an area where you expected a lot of cars to be coming from?
There's a large housing development in that area, yes.
Okay. And coming from that area, is it clear that you were in a construction zone to drivers?
Yes, there was construction barrels lining the entire construction zone for however distance it was. That made it obvious that you were driving by a construction zone.
Okay. And do you recall, I know it's a while ago, but do you recall where the workers were present within that construction zone?
They were farther down by Lake Pflugerville.
Okay. And under the law in the state of Texas, they just have to be present within the construction zone. Is that right?
Within a marked construction zone, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, you set up to do the laser. Did you do those 4 tests that you told us about earlier?
I did, ma'am.
And you verified that your laser was working properly?
I did, ma'am.
And were you able to see a white Subaru Outback coming at a higher rate of speed?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us a little bit about what first drew your attention to that car?
I believed it to be above the speed limit, and I was able to confirm that with my laser.
Okay. And when you said you believed it to be above the speed limit, what were you using to make that determination?
The roadway, the lines in the road, the construction barrels that the vehicle was passing.
Okay. And then you said you confirmed that with your laser. So how did you do that?
I pointed the laser at the vehicle, I pulled the trigger, and the laser gave me back the reading.
And if for some reason the laser wasn't able to hit a flat spot on the vehicle, would you have gotten a reading?
No, ma'am, I would have got an error.
Okay. And as you worked that morning, had you ever gotten an error using your laser?
I've gotten errors using my laser. If I don't get on the license plate or a vehicle doesn't have a front license plate, I have to change the zone of which I use the laser on.
Okay. And if you get an error, what do you do at that point?
You pick a different spot and you utilize the laser again, pull the trigger.
Okay. So in this case, did you get an error on the laser?
I don't recall.
Okay. Were you able to get an accurate speed using the laser?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And what makes you be able to get an accurate speed? How do you know that the instrument's working properly?
Based on all the tests that I did that morning.
Okay. And do you keep a record of that speed when you get it?
I did this time by taking a picture with the ticket writer that we are issued.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about, once you identified that car, how did you pull that car over?
I stepped out in the roadway and waited for them to come into the construction zone.
Okay. And did they pull over for you?
Yes, they did.
And did you approach the driver at that point?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
How did that conversation go? Did you tell her why she'd been stopped?
I did, ma'am. She was very polite, advised that she was running that morning.
Okay, and did you believe she may have been coming from Lake Pflugerville?
From that area, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and would she have passed a construction sign coming from that direction?
Yes, ma'am, she would have.
Okay, and did you identify the driver? Did you identify who she was?
I did with her Texas driver's license, ma'am.
And who did you identify her as?
I would have to look at my ticket to give you the actual name, ma'am.
And Your Honor, may the officer refer to his citation to refresh his memory?
You may.
You can look at your citation, officer.
Ma'am, her name was Callie Kornblue.
Okay, and you verified this with her driver's license?
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay, and you had a video equipment on that day, is that right?
I wore a county issued body camera. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and were you able to save your interaction with the defendant through that body worn camera?
It was recorded. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did you have a camera that was recording the vehicles as they traveled?
No, ma'am. It's only operated by our actions, our push of the button.
Okay, so you turned it on as you pulled her over?
Yes, ma'am. I turn it on whenever we make contact with somebody.
Okay. Officer, I'd like to show you through Box what we have offered as State's Exhibit 1. Have you been able to review that today?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that a copy of your citation?
Yes, ma'am.
And does that appear to be an accurate copy and reflection of what you wrote that day?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And is that citation something you turned in as soon as you issued this ticket?
At the end of shift, it gets uploaded.
Okay. And when you say it gets uploaded, it's through a system you're using there on the side of the road?
It's used by using Wi-Fi. So
Okay.
whenever you get Wi-Fi, so at the end of the shift is when you upload all of your citations.
And you've reviewed that citation. Does it appear to be an accurate reflection of what you recall from that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, State moves to admit State's Exhibit 1.
Any objection?
No objection.
States 1 is admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
Give me 1 second. Let me explain something. Ladies and gentlemen, I've admitted States 1 into evidence. I'm going to move that into the Box folder that you will have access to, but the state will now publish this so you'll be able to see. Remember, this is not your only opportunity to see this evidence, because when you deliberate, you'll be able to access that folder and review it closely. Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge, could we get sharing enabled for me?
Kelly, go ahead and enable sharing screen for Guthrie and Washburn.
Thank you. And Officer or Deputy Shockey, are you able to see this citation?
Yes, ma'am.
And does it identify the defendant on there?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Tell me a little bit about what is this photo we see here?
The photo is my ticket writer, my e-citation writer has a camera built into it, kind of like a cell phone. And that is the picture of what I picked up that vehicle speed at and the distance that it was picked up at.
And how do you know what the distance was?
It displays it at the bottom, the 1,008.7 feet.
And why is that significant? What does that tell us?
It tells us that she was 1,000 feet away, you know, a little over 1,000 feet away, and that she's within the construction zone.
Okay, so she was not far from you when you were able to lock in what her speed was.
1,000 feet's a little bit far, but no, she wasn't too far. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is there a limited range that the laser gives you and how far someone can be away?
I don't recall. I know
Okay.
it's in the 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet area.
Okay. Is there anything else about this citation that you recall that stands out to you?
No, ma'am. Everything's in the citation that is correct.
Okay, and you marked down in the citation that day that she was in a construction zone, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, with workers present in that parentheses.
Okay, and if you had not verified that yourself, would you have marked that part of the citation?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. And officer, we've talked a little bit about you having a body worn camera that you used that day. Have you had a chance to review that video?
I have, ma'am.
And is it an accurate reflection of the interaction you had with the defendant that morning?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Your Honor, state moves to admit State's Exhibit 2, the body cam video.
Any objection?
No objection.
States 2 is admitted.
And permission to publish, Your Honor.
Sure. Jurors, just to let you all know a couple of things. Just like the other piece of evidence, it'll be in that box folder. Because this is a video, when we play that video, you'll experience a couple of things. One is possibly a little bit of lag or disconnect between the audio and visual. However, if you download the evidence during deliberation and see it there, you'll be able to see it without that lag. Second is that you will hear a kind of like a quiet zone, dead zone area in the middle of the video, and that was because it was court ordered and discussed with the attorneys for that one particular section, because it isn't relevant to our inquiry today. And you're not to consider anything about that. It doesn't weigh into your decision for that area. Now, Ms. Washburn, go ahead and publish.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
Construction zone with workers present. Do you have your driver's license, proof of insurance, please?
Yes, I should have stretched before I stopped running. It was a little hot. Sorry.
All right.
Baker 21 and 44, you went on the caller.
Your Honor, with your permission, I think I wasn't sharing the audio in the beginning. Can I restart the video?
Sure. It's only a few minutes, so go ahead and restart.
Perfect. I apologize for the glitch.
And I'm sorry, one more thing. For the purposes of audio clarity, Deputy, go ahead and mute yourself at this moment.
Okay.
And then Ms. Washburn.
Construction zone
Sorry. Thank you,
Make
Judge.
sure you mute yourself as well.
I will.
with workers present. Do you have your driver's license, proof of insurance, please?
Yes, I should have stretched before I stopped running. It was still a little hot. Sorry.
All right.
Baker 21 and Baker 44, you out with the caller?
No, I need your insurance.
Oh, it's online.
E13,
Okay.
clear 23 off the bed.
You can pull it up, or I can run your plates over the radio, whichever you prefer.
Well, Baker 21 negative. We just got the location. We're trying to get inside.
10-4, Mr. 43, we now have an open line. You possibly put the phone down.
How fast was I going?
51 and a 35.
Is this road always 35?
That's because of construction.
That's why.
Yeah.
I swear, what is it? Only 50? I usually don't speed.
I think it's 45 normally. But I know it's 35 for the construction. That's why we're out here today.
I don't know. I guess can you run my plate? 'Cause this
Yeah, that's fine.
forever.
Okay. I just need you to sign. It's not admitting guilt. It's just saying that you'll take care of this. No problem. Yeah, it's just a little bit too fast. Give you a warning.
Maybe 21 and 23 on
Can you make it a
inspection.
little fast?
900 block of Anderson.
Well, lucky it's under 25, so you can take defensive driving. As long as you haven't had one in the past year.
I got one night. It's been a year.
Okay, let's hope it's been a year.
What happens if it?
Then they won't offer defensive driving. Motor 1228 for insurance.
Motor 12, go ahead.
John Charles Boy 9589.
Motor 12.
I'll be right back with you. Hang tight, okay? totally forgot you were. I'm so used to it.
Motor 12 insurance has been confirmed. John Charles Boy 9589 for a 2014 Subaru Outback through Progressive.
I'm clear, thanks. That's your driver's license back now. Right there's the court information, so give them a call in about 10 days. Just tell me you would like defensive driving.
Okay.
One Baker 20.
Drive safe.
And let's go ahead and unmute Ms. Washburn, and
Sorry about that.
Deputy Shockey, go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead with your next set of questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Deputy Shockey, I have a few questions about what we see on this video. You see multiple officers there. Do you recall who those officers are?
It was Deputy Blackman, which was the other motor officer, and then Deputy White, which was the gentleman in the Tahoe.
And why were so many officers there at this location?
The motor unit operates in 2 motorcycle configuration for Travis County. So Blackman was my partner for that day. And then Deputy White, I believe, was just driving the area and saw that we were over there and came over to say hi.
Okay. And in the location where you're at, you don't see on your body cam any construction workers. Do you recall where they were located?
They were farther down towards Lake Pflugerville. We were kind of at the end of the construction zone. It went maybe another couple hundred yards past us, behind us.
Okay. And why did you choose this particular spot to set up?
Because we were trying to make sure that we weren't in the way of the construction workers that were operating on that road.
Okay. And Deputy, the speed of 51 miles per hour, would you believe that that speed was reasonable in these circumstances?
Not in that zone with the workers present, ma'am, because they're moving cones, they're moving those barrels, they're out getting close to the roadway, and that's just adds a lot more braking distance for a vehicle to have to stop to avoid striking them.
And would you believe that that speed was prudent in this situation?
I don't believe it was prudent. I believe it was excessive.
Thank you. State past the witness.
All right. Just checking in with our jurors. Give me a thumbs up if you're good and if you don't need a break. Okay. All right.
Judge, we're going to need to approach any hand if you'd like to give the.
You need to approach. Is that correct?
Yes, Judge.
Let's do this. Kelly, go ahead and send the jurors with the bailiff into a breakout room. And then send the state, send Ms. Washburn, Guthrie, and me into a separate breakout room. Don't bring in the jurors yet. It looks like one of them needs to take a break and give us 2 minutes for that. And while we're on this break, state and defense, I'm working on that jury charge. It's pretty substantially similar to the one I emailed you the other day, but I'll send you another draft to accommodate some of our changes from this trial. Be prepared to look at that. I will also include our second chairs on that, so if they want to look at that before, so we could expedite that portion of it. Again, us being not a court of record, I don't anticipate needing to have a formal charge conference, but I'll hear you all out before we make that final.
Judge Chu,
Yes, ma'am.
the jurors are ready.
Okay. Go ahead and bring them all in.
They'll be in about 10 seconds.
And then juror number 15, if I could get you to start your video again. Okay. We got our 6 jurors. So the next step is defense will ask questions of this witness. Defense, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Deputy. As a motor, I'm sorry, it was a motor patrol unit. Is that right?
Motor unit.
Motor unit. Okay, thanks. You said that you're pretty familiar with traffic laws around Texas, right?
We try to keep up to date. Yes, sir.
And so you know that the law, you know that there's specific laws surrounding construction zones with workers present.
Correct, sir.
And that's so that when you write the ticket, you can write it, accurately, right?
That is correct, sir.
And then there's prerequisites for the construction zone, right? Like there have to be workers present.
That's one of them. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then there's there's a handful of different signage that's required as well, right?
There is signage that is required. Yes, it needs to be.
And you're familiar with those signs. You know what they are.
I know they're orange construction signs. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you'd recognize them if you saw them.
I believe so.
In that box program, deputy, that I believe you were just using with the prosecutor, in the offered evidence folder, there should be 6 different pictures there, labeled Defense Exhibit 1 through 6. Can you tell me if you see those?
I don't, but I will check, sir.
We'll give it a second to make sure it's all processing through.
Council, I don't see that in the offered folder.
All right, I will.
There it is.
Did they all show up, Deputy?
Yes, I believe so.
Will you take a look at Defense Exhibit 1 there for me?
Okay, sir.
All right. And you recognize that sign that's in that picture, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's what kind of sign is that?
It's a warning sign advising you of construction coming up
Okay. And so where would you expect to see that sort of sign?
outside of the construction zone.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of the sign that you would see?
I believe so, sir.
Okay. And can we look at 2 through 5 as well? Or 2 through 4, I'm sorry. Just to try and make it easier on you. I think you can switch with the arrows there, but I don't know your interface.
Okay, I'm looking at 2, sir.
All right. And then 2, and you can flip through if that's quicker, whatever's easier. 2 through 4, those are also, you recognize those types of signs as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Those are the same thing, the same construction signs.
That were present at that day, I don't recall.
Or no, like you said with the first one, those are the types of signs you expect to see, right?
Correct. I expect to see something that's advising of beginning a construction zone, but I don't work for TxDOT, so I don't know the height of the numbers or the height of the letters have to be or anything in regards to
Right. Okay. So then not specifically for any sign, with the TxDOT number on there, but like we said with the first one, you recognize those as the types of signs that you would expect to see around.
Correct.
And then those are also, they're fair and accurate representations of the types of signs that you would expect to see around.
I believe so, sir. Yes.
And then I'm going to ask you to look at 5 and 6. That might be a little bit quicker. Those are just screenshots from that body cam we just watched. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do those seem fair and accurate to the body cam we just watched?
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. Judge, at this time, the defense is going to offer Defense Exhibit 1 through 6.
Any objection from the state?
No objection, Your Honor, as a demonstrative.
I think it was offered as evidence, though.
Judge, I don't know if you want us to go to a sidebar, but I think this approaches the motion in limine. And if he's going to open the door using these signs, the state would request to use their examples that they provided as well.
I'm going to overrule the state's objections. The defense 1 through 6 are admitted into evidence.
All right, Deputy, I'm going to try and bring this up on the screen. Oh, I'm sorry, Judge. Can I continue?
Yep.
There you go. Is that popping up on screen for you, Deputy? Can you see that one? So that's one of the signs we were just talking about, right? That's the sign you said that you expect to see around the construction zone.
expect to see as a warning to coming up to a construction zone. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. Now, this screenshot here, this is one of the clips from the body cam we just watched. That's heading up the road on Weiss Lane, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Is that sign's not anywhere in this clip, is it?
I can only see about to that driveway, a little bit past that driveway that's up on the left, sir.
So you can't see the other cones sticking past that driveway?
I can see past the driveway, second cone past it, and then it starts to get, blurry with the trees and everything else.
Okay, so we can try and make that help a little bit. Do we see any of these signs there?
I do not see any signs there, sir.
And there's not any workers out there, are there?
Not that I can tell from this picture, no.
Okay. Then not any workers moving any cones or barrels?
From this picture, I do not see him, sir.
Right. And then this shot is this is the other angle down Weiss Lane, right?
Correct, sir.
And that's showing your partner, Deputy Blackman there. Those are the same vehicles we saw a moment ago.
Yes, sir.
And that sign that we just looked at, that's not visible in this picture either, is it?
No, sir.
This sign with the begin work zone, I believe you mentioned it with the state as well, that's to mark the beginning of work zones, right? And that's not visible in this picture.
It is not visible in that picture that I can tell, sir.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Deputy. And that's not visible in this picture either.
I don't see one in this picture either, sir.
This sign, I believe, again, was mentioned before, the traffic fines double when workers are present. That sign's not present in this picture?
No, sir.
And it's not present in the next one?
No, sir.
The specifically marked work zone speed limit sign, that's not present in this picture?
I don't see it, sir.
And it's not present in the next one either?
I don't see it in that one, sir.
And then the end work zone sign, that's not present in the northbound view here?
No, sir.
And it's not present here on the southbound shot either, is it?
No, sir.
Now, do you still work in this area at all?
No, sir.
Okay. Would you say you're familiar with it?
I don't work in the area.
Okay.
A few times, sir, so I would not say I'm familiar with it.
Now, you said on direct that you thought what you were calling the construction zone went, I think, 3 miles up the road, but that was the other direction. Is that right?
It was very long. If I can elaborate on these pictures, I can tell you. So the picture that one.
Does that help? I'm sorry.
All right, sir. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just trying to get to the picture that I assumed you were talking about.
Sir, the construction zone goes well past this. We haven't even reached the roadway for the lake. We haven't reached the roadway for the subdevelopment. It goes on for at least over a mile that way.
Okay, and you said is it 1 mile or is it 3 miles, Debbie?
I said for at least a mile that way.
Understood. And you said on direct that you guys were set up right about the end of the work zone. Is that right?
Towards the end, yes, sir.
Now do you recognize this right past your part here? I'll see if I can make that better. Right past your partner there, that white line, that's the bridge over Wilbarger Creek, isn't it?
Correct, sir. And it extends at least another half mile past that, going down the hill where you can't see anything from this view, sir.
I'm sorry, what extends past that?
The construction zone.
The construction, okay. So when you were out here in March, this lane or this road that we're looking at, it looks like it was 2 lanes originally. Is that fair to say? Before this work started?
That's what it looks like, sir, but I don't know.
And then the bridge over the bridge itself over Wilbarger Creek is still 2 lanes, correct?
Correct, sir.
And on the other side of the road, or on the other side of the bridge, that road is 2 lanes as well?
I believe so, sir.
So then would you agree with me that the construction zone probably stopped at that bridge where the road stopped widening out of 2 lanes?
No, sir.
It continued on the other side?
It did, sir, because we actually turned around in the driveway past that bridge in the construction zone. It dips down. If you can see the road actually dips out of view. And
past the bridge there?
Past the bridge, below your mouse, is a dip that carries on for at least a couple 100 feet before it starts to rise. The roadway starts to elevate again.
On the road, there's still 2 lanes.
Correct, sir.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you, I'm going to take this down. I want to ask you briefly about the laser that you were using earlier. You mentioned that there were a handful of tests you did when you started the shift, right?
Yes, sir.
And before those tests, it actually runs a self-calibration test, the laser itself. Is that right?
It runs 5 tests, sir.
Are those all self-checking tests, or are those the tests that you perform?
It's all self-checking within the computer system.
So before you run your tests, like you were talking about, you mentioned the distance measurement and then the delta distance.
Correct, sir.
Before those, the machine itself runs 5 tests.
Correct, sir.
And those tests are checking itself.
It's checking the system. Yes, sir.
Now, you don't do any repairs on that laser, do you?
No, sir.
And Travis County Sheriff doesn't do any repairs on that laser?
No, sir. It gets sent off, sir.
Okay. And you don't keep any records for those repairs, do you?
I do not, sir.
Now, in this, when you were speaking with Callie Kornblau at the scene, you told her that she could take defensive driving to have the ticket dismissed. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then at the end of the interaction, you told her again that she could take defensive driving to have the ticket dismissed.
Yes, sir.
Now, you wrote the citation that we saw on the screen earlier.
Yes, sir.
And you're the one that marked that red circle around construction zone with workers present?
No, sir.
You didn't mark that construction zone with workers present?
I marked but not the red circle.
Oh, okay. So the one you had, you marked differently, and that circle is just.
There was no circle. The circle was just used for evidential purposes.
Gotcha. So that's a modified. So according to the Code of Criminal Procedure, she can't actually take defensive driving to have that ticket dismissed, can she?
I truly don't know, sir.
So you didn't know when you told her that, though, either?
No, sir.
Now, I just got a couple of questions about the video here. And I'm just going to show you the video that we already watched a little bit earlier, Deputy, and I hope that it won't blast out. I hope that the volume won't be too loud here.
Don't forget to share the audio as well.
Oh, yep. I'm sorry. Thank you, Judge. I'm going to stop, restart, and let's do this better. There it is. Is that showing up for you, Deputy?
Yes, sir.
Is this road always 35?
That's because of construction.
That's why.
Yeah.
I swear, what is it? I usually don't speed.
I think it's 45 normally, but I know it's 35 for the construction that's what we're out here doing.
And Debbie, one more spot. Oh. You said that the speed limit is normally 45 out there?
I did not say it was, sir. I believed it to be 45. I was not positive because there was no 45 signs posted in the construction zone.
Okay. But you're saying today it was 35.
During that time, during the construction zone, there was construction zone signs marking it as 35.
Okay. And it was 35, like you just said, it's 35 because of the construction.
The construction, yes.
But we didn't see any workers on that video anywhere.
I did not, sir.
No, we didn't see any of the construction signs out there anywhere.
No, sir.
And just like there's not an end of work sign here at this bridge, right? Because the construction continues onto the 2-lane roads out there.
Correct. There was some work going on the bridge, if I remember correctly, sir.
And you told Ms. Kornblau a moment ago, or on the video a moment ago, that you knew it was 35 because of the construction, because that's why you were out there today.
Because that's what I rode prior to setting up in position to conduct selective traffic, sir.
So when you're sent out there, you don't have any quota of tickets you have to get, do you?
No, sir.
No further questions, Judge.
Redirect from the state.
Yes, Judge, thank you. Deputy, let's talk a little bit about the limitations of your body cam. How far can you see using that body cam? Do you give an estimate?
I'm sorry, let me pause this. Mr. Guthrie, go ahead and take down the shared screen.
I'm sorry. Okay.
You may proceed, Deputy Shockey.
I would estimate maybe a quarter of a mile.
Okay. And the day you worked this this situation, you said you drove the construction zone?
Correct, ma'am.
And is that something you did multiple times throughout the construction zone being present?
It's what we did that day to verify everything was in place to be accurate when we conduct select traffic in that area.
Okay. I want to direct your attention back to the box sharing folder, States Exhibit Evidence for the State. If you could look at States Exhibit number 3. Do you recognize this as the construction zone area on Weiss Lane?
Give me 1 sec to get to it, ma'am. Okay, state exhibits, you said, ma'am?
Yes, in the States Exhibit folder, if you look at State Exhibit number 3.
Yes, ma'am.
And obviously this picture wasn't taken when you were there in the construction zone, but is this similar to what you saw that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the sample construction sign that you saw in that area?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, state moves to admit States Exhibit number 3.
I'm going to object, Your Honor.
What's your objection?
The same objection that I had in the pretrial motion, Judge. This video was taken. I'm going to object as to relevance and the time frame of the video, or picture rather. It looks like this picture was taken in November of 2018, and it's not going to affect any fact and issue or any matter at issue in this case.
And Judge,
Over.
similar.
Hold on.
Sorry.
I'll go to the weight of the evidence, but I'll go ahead and admit States 3 into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Deputy Shockey, if I could get you to take a look at States Exhibit number 4 in box. Have you had a chance to look at that one?
Yes, ma'am.
And in looking at that exhibit, is that similar to what you had seen in the Weiss Lane area of construction signs?
Let me just confirm it, ma'am, because I don't know if the computer was showing me the same picture or not. Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, and this was taken at a different time frame from the one we just entered, is that correct?
I don't know when this photo was. I can't.
Okay.
See the dates.
I guess the question is, Deputy, is that an accurate example of the types of construction signs you yourself observed on the date of this ticket?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Your Honor, state moves to admit States Exhibit number 4.
Any objection?
Make the same objection, Judge, as to relevance, even more so, because it looks like this one is 3 months even after the first one, as well as to the risk of confusing the jury on the issues and misleading.
Objection is overruled and States 4 is admitted.
Okay, Your Honor, permission to publish States Exhibit 3 and 4.
Go ahead.
Thank you. And Deputy, is this States Exhibit number 3?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you viewed, when you drove the construction area on Weiss Lane, did you view a sign like this?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have any idea, looking at that photo, kind of where you are on Weiss Lane on this photo?
I believe we are closer towards the toll road, but it's hard to recall, ma'am.
Okay, that's fair. And let me direct your attention to State's Exhibit number 4. If you'll bear with me one second. And this is State's Exhibit number 4, Deputy. Is that a similar location on Weiss Road?
It appears to be so, ma'am.
Okay, and is that again a sign that you saw that day when you issued the citation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and Deputy, if I could direct your attention one more time, I apologize. Back to the box account and look at State's Exhibit number 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to see that? Is that an accurate Google Map depiction of the area where you were located?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think it would help the jury to kind of see the distances of where you were?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, State moves to admit State's Exhibit number 5.
Any objection?
Only as to relevance, Judge.
Case 5 is admitted and
Thank you.
the objection is overruled.
And permission to publish, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
And Deputy, we're looking at Weiss Lane. Can you kind of explain what it is we're seeing here? Where is the 16700 block? Is it down here?
Back to yours, ma'am. Okay, I'm back on you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm asking you to look at this map. Is the marking, the red marking on this map, about the 16700 block of Weiss Lane where you were located?
That's the beginning of 16700 block, apparently, according to what's on the map, ma'am.
Okay, and Lake Pflugerville is back up here, right?
Correct, ma'am.
How far would you say that that is?
A couple miles, ma'am.
Okay, and using those miles, you drove this entire, was this entire area a construction zone?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall how often the signs were placed throughout that construction zone? Okay, but coming from Lake Pflugerville, do you recall seeing construction signs as you drove that route?
I don't recall seeing them, ma'am, but it's standing practice that they put them out from main roadways.
Okay, so within that construction zone, you verified yourself that day that there were signs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and in looking at that map, you said it's roughly several miles there.
I believe so.
Were there construction workers present within that zone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you believe the defendant would have had to pass one of these construction signs as she came towards you?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Thank you. Pass the witness.
Defense recross.
Can I reopen? I'm sorry. Could I reopen for just one moment?
Sure, just go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Deputy, I apologize. You've had a chance to view everyone here. Have you been able to recognize the defendant, Ms. Kornblau, on the Zoom video today?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you identified her as the person who you pulled over that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And your record reflect that the witness has recognized Ms. Kornblau, the defendant?
There's no record, but it is so noted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Guthrie.
Thank you, Deputy. 1 second. I'm gonna bring up. We all gotta navigate Zoom here. Now, State's Exhibit 3 that we were just looking at. I want to be clear so the jury understands. You're not saying you saw this sign
No,
on
sir.
the roadway on March 6th, were you?
I can't recall if it was in the same position or not, sir.
Okay, because this picture was taken in November 2018, right?
I believe so, sir. That's what you all said.
Okay, so, and then the state's exhibit 4, the other picture we looked at, you're not saying you saw that one on scene either, are you?
No, sir. Similar sign. As you can tell, that there's sandbags holding them down, so they're only temporary signs.
Because the second picture was taken in January 2019, right?
That's what you all are telling me, sir. I can't.
And you just stated on direct that you don't recall any signs coming from Lake Pflugerville south. Isn't that what you just said?
I said what, sir?
I said, didn't you just tell us that you, when asked if you recall seeing this sign coming from Lake Pflugerville, you said that you don't remember?
I don't recall, sir.
Right. And while you were out there in March, not November, not in January 2019, but in March, you didn't take any pictures of any sign that looked like this, did you?
No, sir.
No. But you've got a agency issued cell phone, correct?
No, sir.
You don't? They don't give you a cell phone at Travis County Sheriff?
No, sir.
Well, you didn't take any videos of the signs either, did you?
No, sir.
All right. And any videos of any workers moving cones or moving barrels?
On that particular incident, no, sir. But if you get all the traffic stops we did that day, you might see workers present.
Right. It might just blur together a little bit, huh?
No, sir. I was just talking about in the same spot because we pulled over multiple vehicles in that same area.
How many vehicles did you pull over there? Do you know?
I don't know offhand, sir.
Okay. How many warnings did you give? Do you know?
I don't know, sir.
No further questions, Judge.
Is this witness excused? Ms. Washburn, you're muted.
Sorry, nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
All right. Deputy Shockey, you are still under the rule, but you're excused from this trial at this moment. You may go about your day, but I imagine you may be subject to recall if testified, and the state will notify you when you're released from that recall.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Go ahead and exit out. Remember, you're under the rules, so don't look up this trial or ask anybody or talk to anybody about it, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Kelly, go ahead and remove Deputy Shockey. And then Mr. Guthrie, go ahead and unshare your screen.
Sorry.
That's okay. State, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the state rests.
Okay. Before we go on to any possible defense evidence, I want to check in with you all, see how you all are doing, jury. If you want a break, give me a thumbs down. Okay, no thumbs down. I have, of course, massively missed our mark on time, but we are pretty close to finishing up, but it looks like it will take us a little bit of time. But you will all be done today. I appreciate your patience, especially on this new way of doing a trial. The state has rested its case, which means that now it's the opportunity for the defense to call any witnesses, but again, they are under no burden to call any witnesses if they choose. Defense.
We're going to call Callie Gornblau, Judge.
All right. Ms. Kornblau, let me have you unmute yourself. Similar to the instructions that the officer had, I've got to go through a couple of things with you. First is make sure that nobody else is in the room, that you're in a private space. Second is, do you have any documents or anything that you need to refer to for your testimony in front of you?
No, sir.
Okay. Then if you end up doing, then just make sure that they're turned over and don't look at them until the attorneys say it's okay to look at them. Third thing is just make sure you're not communicating. You're of course allowed to communicate to your attorney at the appropriate time, but now theoretically you're in a virtual witness stand. So this is you without any cell phone. You can't text your attorney or anything like that. and don't look at emails or anything else. It's just like you're in a witness stand just by yourself answering the attorney's questions. Do you understand those instructions?
I do.
Okay. Let me have you raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. You're under oath now. Mr. Guthrie, you may proceed with examination.
Thank you, Judge. Kelly, where are you participating from? Where are you streaming from right now?
I'm in your office building.
How well do you know this road that we're talking about, Weiss Lane?
I drive it pretty often. I like to walk Lake Pflugerville with my dogs or run.
Where do you use it to go? Where were you using to go in March of 2018, or to come from, rather?
At that point, I was coming from the lake driving home after my run, but I do drive that road to work sometimes now since I work in Pflugerville.
Okay. Where do you work in Pflugerville?
I work at Signature Care Emergency Room now. In 2018, though, I worked at the Trauma Center, St. David South Austin Hospital.
So I'm assuming you had the day off when you were out running?
I think so, or at least a portion of it.
When you got pulled over, did you see that bridge that was on the video that we were watching earlier that I was discussing with the deputy?
I remember that bridge all the time because you have to slow down because it gets narrow right over there.
Okay. And it's still 2 lanes there, right? That bridge itself?
It is.
Do you know if it's still 2 lanes on the other side of the bridge from where that video was?
I'm not 100% sure on that.
Now, when you were pulled, did you see any signs marking that there was road work being done?
No, that's why I was surprised. The only thing were those orange cones, barrels, whatever you call them. But those were always on that road ever since I remember it. So I don't remember any signs.
That's those traffic barrels that we saw in the video?
Yeah, those orange things.
Actually, I'm going to try. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. So are you seeing this sign on the screen right here?
I can see it, yeah.
Okay. So were there any of those signs around when you were pulled over?
No, there was no signs.
Any signs that looked like that?
No.
Any signs that looked like that?
Nope.
What about that one?
No.
Did you see any workers when you were out there?
Not at all. It was a wide open road. Nothing to be seen except the cops on the side of the road there.
So when he told you that, what's the speed limit on that road? Do you know?
It's 45. I've confirmed that now.
What did you think when he said it was 35?
I was really confused. I think in the video it kind of shows that because I usually don't speed, and 35 is way slower than I thought that road would be. It's kind of like a country road out there.
Okay. So where were the officers when you were pulled over? Where were they? The deputies, pardon me.
They were kind of grouped up on the side behind, I guess, on the side of the road.
Okay. Was there anybody else out there?
No, there was cars going up and down the road, but there's no one else that I remember.
What's that area? Describe that area of the road for me, if you can.
So I turn onto Weiss Lane from the lake. So I come onto that road in like the middle of the road, I believe. And so there's a big field, there's cows, I think like a farmhouse off in the distance. And then it's wide open.
Is the road straight or curvy?
It's straight. It does go up and down with elevation, but it's pretty straight shot.
How far do you think? Can you see pretty far when you're out there?
Oh yeah, you can see pretty much the entire road, front to bottom.
What was the weather like on that video we just watched?
An average Texas day, really hot and sunny.
Could you see pretty well?
Yeah, I could.
What would you have done if there had been workers out there? Would have it affected your driving at all?
Absolutely. I feel like if I had seen people on the side of the road or just in general, I would take caution to that.
So based on everything you're saying, based on that you could see so far for the road and we saw the sun was up and there weren't any signs and there wasn't anybody working, do you feel like based on all those conditions that the speed you were driving was reasonable?
Yeah, I do. And I think that I was going with the flow of traffic down that road as well.
I've got no further questions, Judge.
All right. Prosecution, now is your opportunity to ask questions of this witness.
Thank you, Judge.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ms. Kornblau. I just have a few questions for you. You said you live in the area over there?
Yeah, I live in Pflugerville, ma'am.
Okay. Did you live there at the time when you were running at Lake Pflugerville?
I did.
And so you're familiar that construction had been going on there for a while, right?
I'm familiar that that road has been the way that it's been pretty much the whole time. Yeah.
Okay. So like even on the video, you're like, oh, the construction. So you knew that there was a construction area there.
I knew that the road had cones on it. Yeah.
Okay. And you confirmed that the speed limit's 45 miles per hour on that road. Is that right? You told us that?
Yes, it's 45.
Okay. So 51 miles per hour is over that speed limit, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. And when you were on that road, you just gotten done running. I think you said you should have stretched before you were coming in hot. What did that mean?
Oh, I guess I usually am pretty cautious with my speed, but I guess my foot was a little heavy, you know, going 50 and a 45.
So going a little fast, speeding through that area. And you said you didn't notice any signs, but you're familiar with that area. Have you seen signs there?
Honestly, no. And that's why I was shocked when he said it was 35, I had no idea that there was construction workers or anything going on other than those orange barrels. Those were obvious.
Okay. And how long would you say, in your opinion, the construction zone was?
I think it's that whole road. And I think it's still, if the barrel's considered a construction zone, it's probably still under construction now.
Okay. And would you agree with the deputy? It's roughly 3 or 4 miles through there that's under construction?
I would think so.
Okay. Pretty long way, right?
Yeah.
Workers could be anywhere in that construction zone, couldn't they?
Well, they should be visible in that construction zone.
Okay. So that's your opinion, is that they should be visible to you in that construction zone?
I think if I'm understanding it correctly, at the beginning of this, it said workers have to be present in the construction zone.
Mm-hmm. And if there's workers present in that construction zone, you think you should have to see them for that to be the law?
You think you would see them, yes.
So you're familiar with Texas roads, right? You've been through construction zones before. Are there workers always in every single part of a construction zone?
I mean, if they're actively on the construction zone, they would be present, yeah.
So when they're working on I-35 for 5 miles at a time, you would see workers throughout the 5 miles?
Yeah, you would definitely see them at some point, absolutely.
At some point within that construction zone?
Yeah.
Okay, but it doesn't make it any less safe to speed anywhere through that construction zone, whether you're in mile 5 or mile 1 of that construction zone, right?
Right, and that's why it would be helpful to have a sign posted so that we knew what the speed limit was.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about the signs and the speed limit. You didn't seem at all surprised that you were in the construction zone and that it was 35 because of that. Is that because you'd driven that area so much and you'd seen those signs?
I think I disagree with you. I think I was surprised. And that's why I asked him what the speed limit was, because I was confused.
Okay, you were confused and you don't usually speed, yet you've admitted that you sped on this day, you had a heavy foot.
I was 5 miles over 45, so I guess that's technically speeding.
Right, and you saw what the law is. Anything over the prima facie posted speed limit would be speeding, right?
I'm going to object to the misstatement of the law, Judge.
Let's just move on to the next set of questions.
Sure, Judge. Ms. Kornblau, let me ask you this. Your familiarity with the construction zone, you had gotten done with a run, you were headed home. Any chance you just were on autopilot? You knew where you were headed? You were coming in hot?
I was driving home.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Maybe thinking about the run you just had, thinking about the work you had to get to, something other than where you were?
Probably not. I was probably
Okay.
driving reasonably down the road home.
Okay, but you weren't paying attention to your speed.
I was paying attention to my speed.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You said you saw a bunch of other officers who were at the scene. Did you see other cars getting pulled over as well?
After I left, yeah, I saw like 4 or 5 get pulled over. It kind of was like a speed trap thing, I guess you would say.
Okay, so multiple cars being pulled over. Do you think that the officers were lying to all of them as well about the construction zone?
No, I think that it was poorly marked, and I don't think people were aware that it was a construction zone and that the speed limit was lowered, and therefore there was multiple people going the same speed down this road, causing them to get tickets as well.
Okay, and you saw the photos that we brought in from November and January of actual construction zone speed limit signs within that construction zone. You never saw those signs either?
No, ma'am. And this was in March, so I'm not sure that that's even relevant to the time frame. I don't know how that works, but that's months later. And also,
So whether that's relevant or not, you never saw those photos that were there in November and January. You never saw those
I
construction.
never saw those signs ever. No.
Okay, thank you. Pass the witness.
Redirect from defense.
Thank you, Judge. Callie, was there a single worker out when you were driving down that road?
There was nobody out there except those police officers on the side of the road and vehicles.
Was there a single sign that said it was suddenly 35 miles an hour?
Absolutely not, because I don't even think I saw a speed limit sign.
Was there any sign that said work zone begin here?
No, especially from where I turned off of coming from the lake. I don't think there was any signage in that area at all. I had
there any-
pictures of it, but I couldn't find them. So I was pretty frustrated.
Was there any sign that said work zone ends where we saw in the video or anywhere?
I saw no work-related signs at all.
Was there anything out there at all that told you that there was a legally ordained construction zone with workers present on the road you were driving?
The only thing would be those orange barrels that I think are still there today.
Thank you, Callie. No further questions, Judge.
Date.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Kornbluh, now you are back in your role as the defendant. So go ahead and mute yourself and now you're able to communicate by text message or any other means to your defense attorney if you need to. So it's just like you're back at the defense table, okay? Next step is Mr. Guthrie. Is there another witness?
No further witnesses, Judge. Defense rests.
All right. State, do you close?
State closes.
And defense, do you close?
It's closed.
All right. That's just a fancy way, y'all, of just saying that there's nothing else in terms of evidence or testimony. What's going to happen is that I'm going to send the jury with Deputy Harris into the breakout room for approximately 15 minutes while I go over some legal instructions. It's called a charge. It's this document that's really long, and basically we have to talk about it. And then once I print that out, I'll be loading it into the Box app where in admitted evidence. There, I'm going to have Deputy Harris make sure that you are able to see it. I'm going to read it out loud because I have to. It's the worst part of the trial for me because I'm a terrible person to read out loud to. And then after that, you'll be able to see those instructions in Box along with all of the admitted evidence there. Go ahead and take a break. We will go into your breakout room, and just remember, don't post on social media, don't talk to anybody about this case, don't investigate anything, and keep your cameras on the whole time, and don't touch anything, basically. All right. Kelly, go ahead and send Deputy Harris and the jury into a breakout room. And then,
Hang on 1 second.
hold on. Oh,
Hang on.
David is on. Juror number 15, I believe you need to manually go into the breakout room.
They're attempting to, Judge, they're gone.
Okay, cool. All right. Y'all, I sent you all the draft, and basically the highlighted portion I just deleted, and that's the only difference between my portion and now the portion that you have. Do you have any objections? Anything that I have screwed up?
Sorry, Judge, I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, no worries. I know that I'm putting you on the spot.
I see the highlighted portion.
And I'm sorry, it's all renumbered after that in terms of the paragraph, so it kind of bumps downward. And something from last night's version that's different is in paragraph 9, I added the 2-wit of what the public street is and the 2-wit of the speed, the posted speed of 51.
Judge, there's one section. We're drafting, I mean, it's a 3-sentence paragraph draft. I can send it over to you. I can cite it for you, whatever's easier to find.
Just tell me what it is first before.
It's 542-404. It's just saying that if the fine, if the whole offense is being based on the violation of a prima facie speed limit in a construction or maintenance work zone, that sign has to be posted.
And where would you?
I'm sorry, not has to be posted. It has to be indicated by a sign itself.
Okay, yeah, that's true. So it can't just be that it's a reasonable and prudent speed, and it basically the sign has to say a speed limit that she is in violation of.
If the state's argument is that it's a violation of the prima facie speed limit, then that prima facie speed limit has to be posted, because that's what the speed limit sign serves to do. Anyway, does that make sense?
Anything? He's right on the law part of that. You're muted.
Oh yeah, Afton, you're muted.
What are you asking for? Where are you asking to change it?
No, I don't want to change anything. I just want to add that section to the law.
Do you have that? Can you share the screen?
Yeah, I'm looking at it on a piece of paper, old school, but yes, I can bring it up. I can bring it up for you, Jeff. 1 second.
I would insert that in the definitions.
Oh, looks like I've got it. Email.
Or go ahead and just email it to Afton and me.
I can do that.
And I would insert that under prima facie, in between prima facie and construction or maintenance zone.
And Judge, isn't that language already there in section 6?
It's not. Hold on, let me pull. I'm working on like 6.
In excess of a speed
No, no,
on it.
because it has to indicate that if you're convicting her on the construction zone with workers present, there has to be the sign posted on there.
Right, and that is marked by signs indicating that the construction, maintenance, or work zone, indicating where the zone begins and ends, and stating fines doubled when workers present. Is that what we're referring to?
I
Yeah,
think-
so I'm sorry, Jed.
Go ahead and send that so I can make sure I say it correctly. Because I may be losing you based of what we're talking about. Maybe.
Right. Yeah, I'm not seeing where. Here, I will share. Cannon, do you have that instruction?
I do not.
Oh,
Do you not
I'm
have
sorry. I
that
was
email?
asking my second.
Do you have an email, Carl?
No, but I can email it to Afton and the judge right here.
Mr. Kornblau, thank you for your patience. If you want to deactivate your video, it's okay to do so at this time. We're handling legal matters if you're wanting to take a break.
Okay, thank you.
And should I include Jaime on this email as well, or just Afton?
Yeah, just
I may.
include whoever you need.
Okay.
I would like to see it.
That should be going to all three of you now.
Nothing yet.
Now I see the one you sent me. And it's section C1C on there specifically, or A1. No, C, just section C.
That got sent, and it's just not hanging out in your outbox.
Here, I'll send this way as well. The one I'm sending over now has another instruction in there that we don't care about anymore.
All right, besides that part, anything else? Okay, so I just need to roll on that part as soon as I see it. I still haven't seen it.
You didn't get that second email either. Afton, did you receive anything from me?
I have not.
Do I just load it into the box and offered folder?
There it is. That's why you're in charge. Take 3. It should be in offered evidence now.
It popped up that you tried to do something, but I don't. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Refresh it, Judge.
Yeah, I see it now. So go ahead and walk me through this, Carl.
So the top part of the section is just addressing the fine. That's not really that's not what I'm asking for here. It's subsection C. And it's because there are multiple ways to establish the prima facie speed limit. It's simply saying that if you're using the prima facie speed limit authorized back in subchapter H in a construction or maintenance work zone, that speed limit has to be on it. It's got to be marked by a sign indicating that speed.
Okay.
There has to be a speed limit sign there to use it.
Okay. Yeah, that's the law. So I'm just gonna, let me see if I can fix this accordingly.
Like I said,
Judge,
all
are
I
you
can see.
Paragraph 6, where you're adding that?
Paragraph 6 in between prima facie and construction or maintenance work zone.
Okay. I mean, I think it might make more sense to put it after the construction and maintenance work zone paragraph, but
Yeah, that's fine.
I agree.
Vince gets the instruction or the definition, and you all get the placement.
just got your email, Carl.
You're probably gonna get 3 or 4 more, sorry.
Yeah.
As soon as I do this, you guys, I'm going to print this and go straight into it. So start thinking about your closings now. Brevity is always a good thing. Okay, so after construction or maintenance zone in paragraph 6, I will put in there a violation of a prima facie speed limit, in this case, only if the construction or maintenance work zone is marked by a sign indicating the applicable, hold on. Of course, okay. I had to change it because to not mention a fine, but I now say a violation occurs of a prima facie speed limit, in this case, only if the construction or maintenance work zone is marked by a sign indicating the applicable maximum lawful speed. Good?
Works for us, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Emily, if you could hear me, I need you to print out in the virtual trial folder, in the folder labeled to print both documents. And I'll be there in a second to sign it, and then we need to load that into the file.
And Judge, can we make sure all the admitted exhibits get moved into the admitted folder?
That will be my next step. So let me do that. Besides submitting that, sending you all, I'm going to put the jury charge in the admitted folder as well. Is there anything else that I need to do or anything else that we need to address?
I think that's it, Judge.
All right. Bear with me. And Kelly, let's go ahead and put defense and state into separate breakout rooms for this moment.
All are in separate breakout rooms, Judge.
Kelly, go ahead and bring all the attorneys in.
They will have to come back on their own.
Um,
I close all rooms and the jurors will come back as well.
okay. Let's do this. Go ahead and close all the rooms.
Okay. They're closing in 14 seconds. Okay.
Okay, Judge, we are all good to go. Inbox.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
1, 2, 3. Hold on. Let me make sure. Juror number 15, go ahead and activate your video. I got 13, 11, 14, 18, 3, and 15. Perfect. We are in the final stretch. Just so everybody knows, I've uploaded states 1 through 5 and defense 1 through 6 into the admitted folder into Box. Along with that, there's a PDF file in Box on the admitted file titled jury charge. Normally, if you look into that, you'll be able to follow along. My understanding is that some of your devices may just blank out the screen if that happens. If you're one of those devices, don't do that. You'll be able to look at that in person once we go into the deliberations. Bear with me. This is the part I hate the most, and it's just me having to read this out loud to you all, even though you all can read it as well. But it is important, so pay attention because I find that if you pay attention to this, it will save a lot of questions later on. Also understand that if you have questions about certain things, you would be able to ask in a written note by Deputy Harris, but understand that I'm not being mean or anything, but the standard answer that I will likely give is that the jury must consider the evidence and the facts presented. So just have that in mind, that don't expect anything new that wasn't brought in trial from that. So let's begin. Charge of the court. Members of the jury, the defendant, Callie Lynette Kornbluh, stands charged by complaint with the offense of speeding in a construction zone, construction or maintenance work zone with workers present, alleged to have been committed in Travis County, Texas, on or about March 6, 2018. To this charge, the defendant has pled not guilty. I give you in this charge as the law applicable to the following, to this case, the following. 1, all persons are presumed to be innocent and no person may be convicted on an offense unless each element of the offense is proved beyond a reasonable doubt. The fact that a person has been arrested, confined, or indicted for or otherwise charged with the offense gives rise to no inference of guilt at this trial. The law does not require a defendant to prove his innocence or produce any evidence at all. The presumption of innocence alone is sufficient enough to acquit the defendant. The prosecution has the burden of proving the defendant guilty, and it must do so by proving each and every element of the offense charged beyond a reasonable doubt, and if it fails to do so, you must acquit the defendant. Also, the prosecution has the burden of proving a special finding of true that it must do by proving that special finding beyond a reasonable doubt. In the event you have a reasonable doubt as to the defendant's guilt after considering all the evidence before you, then these instructions, you will acquit him, or I'm sorry, that should be a her, and say by your verdict, not guilty. Paragraph 2. The complaint in a criminal case, and specifically the complaint against the defendant, is not evidence of a defendant's guilt. The true and sole use of a complaint is to charge the offense and to inform the defendant of the accusation against her. Any reading of the complaint to the jury cannot be considered as a fact or circumstance against the defendant in your deliberation. 3, you are charged that your verdict must be unanimous. Therefore, You will not enter into an agreement to be bound by a majority or any vote other than a unanimous vote of all jurors. 4. You are further instructed that it is only from the witness stand that the jury is permitted to receive evidence regarding the case. No juror is permitted to communicate to any other juror anything he or she may have heard regarding the case from any other source than the witness stand. In deliberating on the case, you are not to refer to or discuss any matter or issue not in evidence before you. You are the exclusive judge of the facts proved, of the credibility of the witnesses, and of the weight to be given to their testimony, but you are bound to receive from the court the law which is herein given you and to be governed thereby. 5. You are charged that a person commits the offense of speeding in a construction zone or maintenance work zone with workers present if the person drives at a speed greater than is reasonable and prudent under the circumstances than existing in a construction or maintenance work zone with workers present. You are charged that a person commits the offense of speeding if the person drives at a speed greater than is reasonable and prudent under the circumstances than existing. 6. If a speed is proven beyond a reasonable doubt to be in excess of the speed limit posted on an appropriately installed sign, it is prima facie evidence that the speed is not reasonable and prudent and that the speed is unlawful. Prima facie evidence means only that the evidence is legally sufficient to support a conviction unless contradictory evidence is shown. A jury might find a defendant guilty based on prima facie evidence, but does not have to. Construction or maintenance work zone means a portion of a highway or street where highway construction or maintenance is being undertaken, other than mobile operation as defined by the Texas Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and that is marked by signs: 1, indicating that it is a construction or maintenance work zone; 2, indicating where the work zone begins and ends; and 3, stating, quote, fines double when workers present, end quote. A violation occurs of a prima facie speed limit in this case only if the construction or maintenance work zone is marked by a sign indicating the applicable maximum lawful speed. 7. You are further charged that the state is not required to prove a culpable mental state. A culpable mental state is a predisposed frame of mind that shows the actor performed the prohibited conduct either knowingly, intentionally, recklessly, or with criminal negligence. 8. After the reading of this charge, you shall not be permitted to separate from each other or talk with anyone not of your jury. After argument of counsel, you will retire and select one of your members to be the foreperson. It is his or her duty to preside at your deliberations, to vote with you in arriving at a unanimous verdict. After you have reached your verdict, normally you would use this form attached hereto by having your foreperson sign his or her name to the form reflecting your verdict. Because this is a trial conducted remotely, I will have the jury announce the verdict in open court. I will sign the verdict on behalf of the foreperson, and then you will need to follow these instructions on the verdict form. 9. Now, bearing in mind the foregoing instructions and definitions, if you believe from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant, Callie Lynette Cornbla, on or about March 6, 2018, within Travis County, Texas, was driving on a public street, to wit, 16700 block wise at a speed that was not reasonable and prudent under the circumstances existing, to wit, at a speed of 51 miles per hour, the maximum prima facie and posted speed at this location being 35 miles per hour, then you will find the defendant guilty of the offense of speeding and so say so by your verdict. In no event can you convict the defendant if the evidence in this case you find and believe that the state has failed to prove each and every element of the offense beyond a reasonable doubt. If you have a reasonable doubt thereof, you will acquit the defendant and say by your verdict not guilty of the offense of speeding. If you find the defendant guilty of the offense of speeding, then you must then answer the special finding if that offense was committed in a construction or maintenance work zone with workers present. If you believe from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Callie Lynette Cornbla, committed the offense of speeding in a construction zone or maintenance work zone with workers present, then you're to answer true and say so by your verdict. In no event can you find true the special finding if the state has failed to prove the special finding by a reasonable doubt. If you have a reasonable doubt thereof, you will answer not true that the offense was committed in a construction or maintenance work zone with workers present, and so says by your verdict. If you find the defendant not guilty of the offense of speeding, then do not answer the special finding question. I've signed that. And then on the last page of is your verdict form. There it says verdict form. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty of speeding, four-person. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of speeding, four-person line there. And then proceed on to the question if you find the defendant guilty of speeding, otherwise stop and do not answer the following question. We, the jury, further find the defendant committed the offense of speeding in a construction zone or maintenance work zone with workers present, and then you circle true or false. It's important to remember that what will happen is you guys will go into a deliberation room. My bailiff will go in first to make sure that you have her contact information to let her know when you've reached a verdict or if you have any problems or issues. She'll exit out of that deliberation room. You guys will then conduct your deliberations, and then once you reach your verdict, I will go in there with the attorneys to make sure that everything's in order. That will bring you into the main courtroom to announce the verdict. With that in mind, the state has the burden of proof, so they get to start first with the closing argument, then the defense, and then because the state has the burden of proof, they get the last word in the form of a rebuttal. State, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, opposing counsel. Ladies and gentlemen, I first want to again thank you for your time and attention this afternoon. The case before you today, I started out with as a case of community safety, keeping our streets safe in environments like construction zones where workers are present, simply doing their job and making sure that speeds are reasonable in those situations. And I want to draw your attention to that verdict form. There's two questions you're asking yourself today. First, was Callie Kornblau speeding? And then, was she speeding in a construction zone with workers present? Now, the state has the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt to prove each of the elements of this offense. And I want you to know that beyond a reasonable doubt isn't an impossible burden. There's been plenty of evidence brought to you today to prove that the defendant, Ms. Kornblau, was speeding. You heard me ask the officer if she was in a public place, if it was in Travis County, in JP2. You heard me ask the officer to identify the defendant. You also were able to see the defendant on a body cam. You were able to see her in the video. You saw her name on the ticket and she was identified with her driver's license. So those elements are all easily checked off. And the question becomes, was she speeding? And there's plenty of evidence today to show you she was speeding. The officer testified to you about his experience and his training and being able to visually verify someone was speeding. Remember him telling you that they take you to the tollway and you have to do like 100 cars and get within 5 to 10 miles of the speed just by visually observing it and then verify that with a radar. There's no reason to think the officer was unable to visually observe Ms. Kornblau speeding that day. That's what drew his attention to her car. And then think to his further testimony about the laser. He used the laser to focus it on a reflective portion of her car and he was able to get a reading. His testimony told you he wouldn't get a reading if it wasn't working properly. His testimony told you he wouldn't get a reading if he didn't hit her car specifically in the exact right place. And he was even able to tell you that it was about 1,000 feet away where he was able to get that reading. And he told you about how every single day before every single shift, they test that device. They test that laser and run it through 4 different tests to make sure that it's working properly. There's no question that that laser device gave us an accurate number, 51 miles per hour. And the question here before you is, was she speeding? The defendant herself gave you the evidence that the posted speed limit in that area under normal circumstances is 45 miles per hour. So using her evidence alone, you get beyond a reasonable doubt that she was speeding 51 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. But that's not the whole story here today, ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't 45 miles per hour in March of 2018. It was 35 miles per hour. And how do we know that? We know that because of the testimony of Deputy Shockey. And there's no reason not to believe what Deputy Shockey tells you. Of course, I'd love to have photos of that single day, of everything that happened and perfect video. but that's just not the world we live in. We live in a world where officers do their job and get you the best evidence they can. And the evidence he got you today is that he and his partner drove the entire length of the 3-mile construction zone. They checked, 1, to make sure workers were present within that construction zone, 2, that there were posted speed limit signs of 35 miles per hour throughout that construction zone. And then they set up and began to do selective traffic enforcement. Now the question becomes credibility, because Ms. Kornblau testified to you today and said she never saw the signs. But Ms. Kornblau also testified to you that the signs that came in through the deputy that were posted in November, in March, on Weiss Lane in that very same location from—
Objection, Your Honor. Misstating the evidence.
Judge, I think that I'm allowed to interpret the
The jury will remember. The jury will remember what the evidence is, and that's the sole job of the jury. Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. And we'll admit that those photos are not from the day in question, that they're from later, but those were signs in that construction zone. And Ms. Kornblau said she never saw the signs. And that's how you judge the credibility, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Kornblau has never seen the signs in that construction zone. She seems very nice, but she's easily distracted. She doesn't notice the signs. She doesn't see things. So the question becomes, who notices the signs? Who knows what happened that day? Is it an officer whose sole purpose that day was to pull over multiple people and look for traffic enforcement? Wouldn't he make sure that those signs were posted? Or would someone who's never seen signs at all in that entire construction zone remember what was posted that day? Someone who'd just gotten done with a run, who was heading home, thinking about other things. She just didn't observe it. She never saw the signs, ladies and gentlemen, but that doesn't mean they weren't there, and it doesn't mean they didn't exist. And I also want you to think about her reaction when she's pulled over. There's no question that Ms. Kornblau knows she's in a construction zone. First thing out of her mouth was 35 because of the construction. She knew it was a construction zone. She lived in that area. You don't have to see a worker right in front of you to know that you're in a construction zone and you shouldn't be speeding through it. And the question comes, you don't see the workers present right in front of you. It's not on that body cam video. But I want you to ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, as you begin to deliberate, do you want officers pulling people over in the middle of construction? Can you imagine how dangerous that would be, having workers present right there? The law states that workers must be present within the construction zone, within the entire construction zone. The officers verified that there were workers present within that construction zone, and they've picked a safe spot to set up their traffic enforcement and pull people over. And that's why they chose that location. And that's why you can't see workers immediately in front of her. Workers come and go throughout a construction zone. They change their location, they do things here and there, they go into different places, but that doesn't mean they're not present. And there's no reason to not believe the officer when he says that he verified they were present. So at the end of the day, this is a case about community safety. First question for you should be very easy. Was Ms. Kornblau speeding? Yes, she was. The second question should be easy for you as well. Was she in a construction zone with workers present? There's no reason not to believe any of the evidence brought before you. It's supplemented by her reaction on that video. It's supplemented by the citation, and it's supplemented by her testimony today. And I'm asking you to find her guilty of speeding and find that there were construction workers present. Thank you.
Defense counsel, you may proceed.
With no signs and no workers, it's not guilty. I told you at the beginning, we talked about it at the beginning of the trial, it's a simple one, but it's an important one. And let's remember the 3 pieces of evidence, the 3 most important pieces of evidence I told you we're going to see. You've got the body camera of the deputy going one direction with no signs and no workers. You've got the body cam of the deputy going the other direction with no signs and no workers. Now you've received already, or you will shortly, the instructions from the judge and the verdict form there. And it does have 2 questions on there. And I encourage you to start with the second one. I think it's going to be the easiest way to process this all. Has the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Callie Kornblau was in a construction zone with workers present? And remember what we saw on those body cams. Remember what we saw in those pictures. No matter what, no matter what the deputy or the state wants the law to be, the law requires construction zones being marked by those signs. It's so that Callie and everyone else knows what they're driving into, knows what they're driving through, is aware that the rules have changed. And the law that you're going to get from the judge, the law that you've received from the judge, tells you exactly what those signs are and exactly what they have to say. They have to indicate that there is a construction or maintenance work zone. Just like the one that the deputy agreed was the type of sign he expected to see, was the type of sign that's typically around construction zones, and was not present anywhere in the evidence the state brought you. The signs have to indicate where the zone begins. The signs have to indicate where the zone ends. And the signs have to indicate that fines will double when workers are present because you have to be made aware of what's going on around you. Construction workers must be present. There must be someone there. Again, the law the judge gave you will tell you that. We don't see any workers. And we don't see any signs. And that's because they're not there. The only signs that the state can give you, they had to travel 8 months to get them. Look at the pictures that were put in evidence. November 2018 and January 2019. 8 months to find signs. The only thing that the pictures that we looked at and the pictures that the state brought you have in common are that none of them were out there in March. So when you look to that verdict form and you get that question from you, or you get that question in front of you, rather, it's an easy not true. And then you get to go to the next one. Look at the speeding question and remember what Ms. Kornblau told us. Remember what Callie told you was happening when she was driving down that road. And remember that that's exactly what I promised you would happen. She told you about the conditions. The deputy told you about the conditions. He said you can see for miles down that road. He couldn't find a single worker on his own camera. He couldn't find a single sign on that camera. All they had were some traffic barrels sitting off the road. It's sunny. It's dry. Callie told you that she was driving with traffic. Like the state has pointed out, that officer pulled multiple people over that day. No matter what the state wants it to be, the law on speeding in Texas is reasonable and prudent under the circumstances then existing. Any posted speed limit sign is evidence. It's a piece of that puzzle. It is not the law. You don't have to listen to me and the state argue back and forth. You've got the law from the judge. But look at those parts and look at the part that tells you what the law is in Texas. This posted speed limit sign is prima facie evidence. What that means is it's something to get started, but it is not enough. You do not have to find a verdict based on that evidence alone. And the other thing that we really need to focus on with the speed limit sign is that it has to be posted. It has to be posted then and there. It has to be posted when Callie Kornblau was driving down that road, not 8 months later, not 11 months later. It has to be posted then. The deputy agreed with us. That's the type of sign that should be up. It's not there, and it's not there. Those signs are required because if there isn't something to tell you that the rules changed, then there's no way of knowing. And trying to change it after the fact just isn't fair. If there's no signs and there's no workers, then it's not guilty. Now, the burden the state has to reach in this case, the burden that a state has to prove in any criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt. And it's important to know that Everyone doesn't have to share the same reasonable doubt. Everyone doesn't have to find the same hole in the story. If you have that reasonable doubt, that's enough for you. So if one person has a reasonable doubt as to the validity of a laser speed machine that self-tests to test itself to tell us if it's working, that no one has maintenance or repair records of, and that we're not even positive what the effective range is on, that's a reasonable doubt. If someone else has a reasonable doubt as to the validity of the claim that there's a construction zone with workers present when there are neither workers nor signs, that's a reasonable doubt. If someone else has a reasonable doubt as to the validity of a system that has 2 officers stationed in a certain place, pulling over, as he said, multiple drivers, that's a good system to predict reasonableness on the road, then that is a reasonable doubt. In a second, the state's going to give a chance to come back up and speak to you again. And after that, you will go into the breakout room, you'll deliberate, and we'll all be done. But when they do come back up, and when you're back there deliberating, I urge you, make them show you actual evidence. The deputy claiming that the signs must have been up and down the road, but not remembering where they are, isn't enough. And it's not his fault. He wasn't given pictures. He wasn't given video. He wasn't given any evidence of anything closer than November of 2018. There are some views. There are some people that have said this is a lot of noise for a speeding ticket. And to them, I would say that this jury system and the part you're playing in it is the last thing that holds justice together. Whether it's a speeding ticket or whether it's a capital murder, that this right is guaranteed to everyone. And at this point in time, you are the only ones that can make sure that it keeps working. It's simple. It's a simple case, but I guarantee to Callie Kornblau and to everyone in her shoes, it's important. So when you get back in that deliberation room, look at the fact that there are no signs. Okay, look at the fact that there are no workers. Look at all the evidence of Ms. Kornblau's reasonable speed given all those circumstances, and find the one verdict that's supported by the facts, is supported by the law, and is supported by justice, and that's not guilty.
State rebuttal.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, no signs, no workers, not guilty is certainly a catchy phrase. It's easy to glom onto and follow along, but that's simply not the case here. Defense wants you to think that the only evidence you can consider is what you've seen in photos and videos, but that's simply not true. The evidence comes from the witness stand. The evidence comes from the testimony of the officers. Ms. Kornblau doesn't remember signs, but the officer does. The officer does remember seeing those signs, as does another officer, as does everyone else who got tickets that day. Your job here is to judge credibility of the witnesses, not just look at photos, not just look at videos, but to decide what you think is the truth in this case. The question of speeding is very clear. Ms. Kornblau herself tells you that she was speeding. We're not judging a laser. We're not judging an instrument on judging a speed. There's no question that it was working properly that day. There was no question to the officer about whether or not he'd calibrated appropriately or whether or not it was out for maintenance. There was no question that that number was correct, 51 miles per hour. And the question becomes, were there workers present? Ms. Kornblau didn't notice them, but that doesn't mean they weren't present. A construction zone isn't merely 100 feet in either direction. The testimony here is that the construction zone was at least 3 miles long. There were workers present, coming and going throughout that work zone. And so you have to go back and considering the evidence and think about what it is you heard today. What makes sense to you? What is the most clear to get you beyond a reasonable doubt? An officer who's specifically set up in that location to do selective traffic enforcement, do you not think that he would drive specifically to make sure he was issuing good tickets? Do you not think that he would be absolutely positive that those signs were present and in existence before he started doing selective traffic enforcement? Or do you think someone who just finished a run, do you think she would make absolutely sure that she noticed every little thing about her routine drive home? It doesn't make sense. It isn't clear. Ms. Kornblau seems like a very nice person, but she didn't notice the signs. That's the issue here. It's not a catchy catchphrase. It's not something for us to just be like, hey, you don't see it on the video, you don't see it with your own eyes, not guilty. That's not how this works. Remember what we talked about with the one witness rule. Remember we talked about it's possible that no one else will have witnessed what happened. But if you believe that officer's testimony beyond a reasonable doubt, you can convict and you should convict. There's no reason to question what the officers did there that day. They set it up purposely. They drove the entire 3-mile construction zone. And you can see with your own eyes, it is very clearly a construction zone. You see barrels, you see new pavement, you see asphalt, you see other cars being pulled over. And you also hear from Ms. Kornblau that she knows she's in the construction zone. She says herself, oh, 35 because I'm in the construction zone. I want you to go back and take a look at all of these exhibits that we've put forth to you and take a look at that map that we gave you. It shows the entire length of the construction zone. So you're not going to be able to see workers within 100 feet, but that doesn't mean that beyond that body cam view, you wouldn't be able to see them. What's reasonable and prudent in that situation? What's reasonable and prudent when you're in a construction zone? It's not going 51 miles per hour. And at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, yes, this is about Ms. Kornblau, but it's about us as a society and us as Travis County telling Ms. Kornblau that she needs to be safer. She needs to pay more attention. 51 miles per hour in a construction zone is not reasonable and prudent. You're not harming her. You're telling her not to do it again. And if you come back with a not guilty verdict, I guarantee you, she will never see the signs. I'm asking you to focus her attention and find her guilty. Thank you.
Okay, members of the jury, thank you for your patience and your attention to this matter. I'm going to send you with our bailiff into our breakout room where you'll check on some things, make sure you don't have any issues, and then our bailiff will exit the room, and then you guys will begin your private deliberations. It's important to note that even though this is live, when you're in these breakout rooms, nobody can see you except for those who are in the breakout room. Good luck to you. Kelly, go ahead and put the jurors and bailiff into breakout room. All right, now the waiting game. Are you guys fine waiting here with your videos and audios off, or do you want to go into your own breakout rooms? Just unmute yourself and let me know from the lead.
Whatever's easier for you, Judge.
Carl?
Yeah, we can, whatever's easier. If we can turn off video and audio, that's fine.
Yeah, just turn off your audio and visual, and then I'll see you guys in a little bit. Oh, real quick though, if you want to go back on, I just want to. I just want to let y'all know that I appreciate the attorneys and their diligence in this matter. I know that trying this case is probably not the easiest when doing something brand new, but you guys have represented your clients very well. And Ms. Kornblau, I just want to let you know that I appreciate you exercising your right to a jury trial and appreciate your patience in this matter as this jury makes a decision on your case. All right, I will see you guys in a little bit. I'm gonna step downstairs and actually eat a cookie now. That'll be my lunch for today.
Same.
Casman, we're good to go?
Yes, sir, we are.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, hopefully, in case anybody heard some stuff, there's just, Candy was having computer issues. Apparently our one feed or one login was frozen, but we're just gonna ignore those issues. It doesn't change anything with the trial or with what we're experiencing here. My bailiff has reported that we have a verdict. Why don't we go on video live, or why don't we, everybody who is a video participant, turn on your videos and audio, or just, yeah. Kelly, if you want to let David know, to let Patty know, to go ahead and join so that we can then put David and Patty into the jury breakout room when we're ready towards the end, and have them stand by. We're probably close to 15 minutes from getting the rest of this trial done. Next step is, bailiff, go ahead.
Your foreperson will be juror number 14.
Okay. Let's do this. We are going to go in with the bailiff, Mr. Guthrie, Ms. Washburn, and me into the jury breakout room. We will ideally, in the past, we would just look at the form before we read it out loud. This is our version of that today. Juror number 15, I just need to activate your video.
Judge Chu, it looks like Carl, Mr. Guthrie is stuck in the breakout room. Doesn't have.
Closing the room.
Yeah.
Here in a moment.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Sorry about that.
All right. It looks like the jury has reached a verdict according to the bailiff. Who is our foreperson? Let me unmute you, juror number 14. You are a four person?
Yes, sir.
All right. As to the question of not guilty or guilty of speeding, what is your verdict?
Guilty.
And then as to the special finding of construction or maintenance work zone with workers present, true or not true?
Not true.
And if all these, if this is unanimous, I would like a thumbs up from all the jurors. And if not, don't do anything. Okay. It looks like it's unanimous. What's going to happen now is I'll do what's called polling the jury. I'll start with juror number 11 and just ask, is this your verdict? If it is, then yes. If it is not, then no. Juror number 11,
Yes.
juror number 18,
Yes.
juror number 14,
Yes.
juror number 13,
Yes.
juror number 3,
Yes.
and juror number 15.
Yes.
All right. Then, consistent with the verdict reached, I'm finding the defendant, Ms. Kornblau, guilty of speeding, and we will proceed on with sentencing after I excuse the jury in a little bit. I want to thank everybody for doing their jobs today. I know that this was a very difficult case, compounded by the fact of new novelty of having new technology and doing new things. I appreciate everybody's willingness to serve and your attention to this matter. Even though this is probably not the largest case in my courthouse or in the state of Texas, it was important for Ms. Kornblau, it was important for the state of Texas, it was important for our justice system as well, to show people that even as we deal with this pandemic, the courts are still trying to function and the courts are still trying to bring justice to people. Jury duty is just that, it's duty. It isn't something that we can choose to not do or disregard whenever we want to. It's something that we are compelled to do because we are citizens of this country and of this state, and it is part of our job. Because of that, I appreciate when you are called upon, even though it may have been inconvenient, and especially because this was a hard day for you all. I know that some of you all worked through lunch, didn't eat as much, didn't take as many breaks, but you guys did your job, you paid attention, and you exceeded all expectations in making sure that a fair and impartial jury was done. I hope that you all understand that this is actually the nation's first full jury trial by Zoom. So history has been made, and I hope that you take solace in the fact that that you are part of this in providing justice. I hope that also at some point, whether it's today, tomorrow, or in the future, what will happen is somebody will talk to you about jury duty. They may complain that they got a summons. And I hope that when you talk to that person, that you inspire them to serve just as how you've inspired me, that juries here in Travis County are willing to answer the call, even if we're in the middle of a pandemic. With that, our next exit instructions will be, I'm going to send you to our last breakout room where David Slayton and a couple of other staff members will be in there with me. I'll go over some exit instructions that are very important for you all to follow towards the end. And the last thing is that you are released from all other instructions in this case. Should be approximately 10 minutes more of your time. And Kelly.
Just letting the parties know the judge is almost done with the jury. It'll be just a few more minutes.
let's see. I appreciate everybody's patience. We're now back, and Ms. Kornblau, especially your patience. I know this has been an extremely long day for you. Defense and state, go ahead and unmute yourselves. And this is where we're at with this. Ms. Kornblau is convicted of speeding, which makes her eligible under Chapter 45 of the Code of Criminal Procedure for the full range of up to $1 to $200 in a conviction, or the court can defer that conviction in terms of speed, a defendant driving, or deferred disposition. In other words, essentially, I'm giving you an option, Ms. Kornblau, in terms of things. I can convict you of, sentence you to $1 fine plus court costs of, I believe it's in court clerk Emily, if you get candy on there, I think it's $108.10. I don't remember if this is one of those cases that applied after the legislative change. But it's somewhere ballpark, $105, $108.10 plus $1. And it would be a conviction for regular speeding that would go on your driving record. The alternative would be you could do a $50 fine plus court costs and what's called a deferred disposition, to where the case would get dismissed. But that would probably be the other option. So if you want to pay more money to have that not on your driving record, or pay less money and just have it done. Oh, and sorry, just
Yeah,
let me, you may need it. Do I need to send you all in the breakout room?
Yeah, we can do that, or we can just turn off video from it, whatever's easier for the.
Oh yeah, you guys are, why don't you guys just turn off video and audio and just talk. And defense, it is $107.10 is the court cost. Looks like we're coming back online. Mr. Guthrie, has your client made a decision?
Yeah, we're gonna, she's gonna opt for the deferred disposition.
Okay, $50 plus the court cost of $107.10. That would be deferred for 3 months. As long as you don't have any convictions on your driving record for those 3 months, then it would be deferred and adjudicated, dismissed. This would still be, now as part of the Code of Criminal Procedure, the last step is that I'm required at sentencing to inquire if the defendant has the inability to pay that fine. And Mr. Guthrie or Ms. Cornwell, the standard essentially is if with a 107.10 plus $50, are you able to pay that within 30 days? Yeah, okay. Is that true, Ms. Cornwell?
Yeah, I can pay it.
Okay. Then I don't have to go further in that inquiry. I'll send the paperwork over tomorrow. Additionally, you have the right to a jury trial, or not to a jury trial. You have the right to appeal this case. You have 10 days from when I issue the sentence. It's pretty late today, so I'll plan to issue the sentence tomorrow, which means that if you wish to appeal, you have 10 days starting from tomorrow, and you can talk to your attorney about that. But if you choose not to, then essentially you have 30 days to pay that 107.10 plus 10 cents plus $50 fine, and then 3 months to not get anything on your driving record. Do you have any questions, ma'am?
Yeah, I do. So I'm being sentenced the speeding $50 fine. That's just speeding in general, or was that for per mileage or per the 35? Or I guess I'm a little confused.
It's just $50, so there isn't like a the standard rate in terms of us is I guess if you paid the ticket, it would have been miles over speed limit, miles over speed limit times $10 or something like that. Here, I made the determination that it's just $50 because you would have that deferred disposition ability. In other words, it wouldn't show up on your driving record as the added advantage to that. So in this scenario, you may have paid more of a fine, but you get the advantage from your option of not having it on your driving record.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Do you have any other questions, Ms. Cornblow?
This will all be sent to me via email, how to take care of everything?
What I will do is I will send everything through your attorney, and then your attorney will be able to, okay? Any other questions? Okay. If you do have any questions, just contact your attorney. Your attorney will do any follow-up with me. I'll issue that paperwork tomorrow. Again, just so everybody knows, $50 plus the court costs of $107.10. You have 30 days to pay that amount and deferred for 3 months, in which case the expectation is no traffic tickets. If you do have a conviction for a traffic ticket within that period of time, or don't pay the money within the period of time, it would go on your driving record as a speeding ticket. I want to thank you, Ms. Cornwell. I understand that this is not probably what you expected in terms of a jury trial, but I do appreciate you volunteering for this, and I hope this was educational and a worthwhile experience, regardless of how the verdict turned out. And I thank you for the attorneys for their diligence in this matter. And I want to especially thank Kelly from the Office of Court Administration, Casman Harris from the Constable Precinct 5 office, and Emily and Candy from my office and their hard work in making this work. Other than that, we're going to go off the YouTube feed